One of the questions that I get asked regularly is, what kind of blood work should I be getting done if I'm on a carnivore diet to check in with my health and make sure everything's tracking okay? Well, I've been doing a carnivore diet for the last 7 years, and I actually just got back from my yearly appointment with my doctor where I had some blood work done. So in this video, I wanted to outline for you 6 of the key labs that I request every year for my doctor to run so that I can know that my health is in a really good place. Some of these your doctor is going to run automatically at your yearly physical, but a couple of them are ones that they're not going to run unless you ask for it. So let's walk through each one. This video is sponsored by Element. Element is the salt-based electrolyte drink that I have every single day. This is a couple other markers that I look for on a carnivore diet is my sodium levels, my bun, like things that indicate how hydrated you are. And it's actually really common for carnivores or people on a low-carb diet to present as dehydrated on blood work. And a lot of that is because we're not having carbs, so our body is not holding all of that water in. And so I am always proactive with supplementing with sodium and potassium and magnesium, and I do that in the form of these electrolyte packets. I start every morning with one, and then depending on my activity level or how much I'm sweating that day, I'll usually add a second packet. If you're somebody who's triggered by any kind of sweet flavor, I would stick to the unflavored version because there's no sweeteners, there's nothing else in it besides the sodium, the magnesium, and the potassium. But if you like a sweet treat occasionally and that type of stevia or artificial sweeteners is not going to trigger you, they have some really good flavored options like citrus and grapefruit and watermelon. And if you want a free sample pack, you can go to drinkelement.com/LAURAESPATH, and they have a deal there for all my subscribers where you can get a free sample pack with any purchase, and in it they have 2 of 4 of their most popular flavors, so you can see which one you like best. The first one that we're going to mention, and probably the most common and one your doctor will likely automatically run for you, is your A1C. And this is measuring your average glucose over the last 3 to 4 months and how that glucose is attached to the red blood cells. My current A1C is a 4.9. This is probably the lowest that it's been over the last few years doing carnivore. It is very common for carnivores to have a very stable A1C, but then to maybe see it tick up like a point or 2 over the years. So as a carnivore, my A1C has been between this 4.9 and a 5.2, maybe even a 5.3. And a lot of that is because as a carnivore, our red blood cells tend to live a lot longer, which means that sometimes over a long period of being carnivore, you are going to see that A1C tick up very slightly. However, the majority of people, especially those with a high A1C, are going to see that come way down on a carnivore diet when they cut out the carbs and sugar. My husband, at his heaviest and sickest, his A1C was 11.9, and within 6 months, he was able to bring that down to a 4.9 by going on a carnivore diet and implementing some fasting. That being said, the A1C is not a clear picture of what might be going on with your health, your diabetes, your insulin resistance. A1C is the marker that diagnoses somebody for diabetes. If you have a certain number of A1C, it's going to be pre-diabetic or actually diabetic. But there is a better marker that your doctor is not going to run unless you ask for it, and that is your fasted insulin number. And if A1C tells you if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic, a fasted insulin number is going to tell you if you are pre-diabetic. For instance, you could have a normal A1C and all your blood work comes back normal. However, you might have a blood sugar regulation problem. And by that, it means that your pancreas is having to work really hard to produce enough insulin to keep your A1C and your glucose in check. I saw some really awesome graphics that I'm going to post on the screen here for you. And this shows this person has a normal glucose and in turn could have a very normal A1C, 85. That's a great fasted glucose number. However, their pancreas is working really hard to keep that glucose normal. And so their fasted insulin number is going to be all the way up to a 20, which indicates insulin resistance. And honestly, this person is likely on their way to prediabetes, diabetes. In turn, sometimes on a carnivore diet, we get really scared of like that morning glucose of being around 100. My morning glucose is 90s, sometimes maybe it breaks 100. And in the past, I've had an A1C of like a 5.3. Sometimes people can get really scared of that, thinking that carnivore is causing them to have a higher blood sugar or it's causing them to have their A1C go up. but your fasted insulin number is going to indicate what's really going on. So this graphic shows this person has a glucose of 105, but their fasted insulin number is a 2, meaning that their pancreas is in cruise control. Everything is really normal. And so this is where just having your A1C checked or just having your glucose numbers checked doesn't give you the full picture of what's going on. You gotta have that fasted insulin number. So you wanna be 6 or under. Typically, over the last several years, my fasted insulin number has been around a 4 or a 5. And you know what? I never even got it checked before. I was pre-diabetic, 0.1 away from being considered diabetic, and my A1C was all considered within normal range. Had a doctor checked my fasted insulin number many years ago, I could have known a lot earlier on that I was having a major blood sugar regulation problem and maybe could have prevented it. So a normal A1C is great, but it doesn't always mean that there's no problems. Get that fasted insulin checked. Another blood marker that you can check to see how your pancreas health is and your overall insulin resistance and your risk for diabetes is your C-peptide. C-peptide measures your beta cell function in your pancreas and is going to give you an overall indication of the health of your pancreas. It's also going to help you understand, like, are you producing insulin properly, enough insulin, and how your body is regulating that. So it's something else that your doctor likely may not run, but if you're wanting to have a clear picture, or if your A1C is slightly high and you want to know how your pancreas is functioning, that's a good number to check. That C-peptide range really is between about 0.9 and 1.8 for optimal health. The next lab that I'm always checking on is my CRP, or my C-reactive protein. C-reactive protein is a protein that's produced by the liver that's an indication of overall inflammation in your body, which can be a marker for a myriad of health issues. So you want that CRP to be under 1. My current CRP is a 0.3, which is fantastic. It really means that I have no measurable amount of inflammation in my body. So that's really good to see. Another lab value that I always recommend getting checked is your vitamin D levels, mainly because low vitamin D can lead to a myriad of health issues that maybe we're misplacing for something else, because it can cause fatigue, loss of bone, loss of muscle. It can cause headaches, loss of appetite, hormone issues. It also can contribute to a low immune system. It can really cause a lot of things. It shows you how vital the sun is and how much we need the sun. And if you're indoors all the time and you're always using sunscreen, we can very easily have low vitamin D. In the past, I was an indoors girly, and my vitamin D at one point was down to a 12 and even in the low 20s before. And I absolutely know that that impacted my energy levels and my hormone health. Even though Google says that your optimal range of vitamin D should be about 50, there's a lot of experts that I trust in the carnivore community who really talk about proper vitamin D levels between 60 and 80. So that's where I try to keep mine. I got mine checked. I'm actually at a 93 vitamin D level, which is probably on the top end of that. I feel great, so I'm gonna maybe see how things go and make sure it doesn't go too much higher, because you don't want to have it be on the other side. But I feel really great and so much better in the upper vitamin D levels than I did when it was low. Okay, the last lab value that we're going to discuss is the one I'm sure you are asked about the most. Anytime anybody hears you're on a carnivore diet, they say, well, what's your cholesterol? What about your cholesterol? I think that the misunderstanding of the importance of cholesterol is really prevalent in our society. People are very scared of cholesterol. It's why the low fat movement came about many years ago. I could rant in a whole other video about that. So we're gonna break down the importance of cholesterol, what you really should be looking for. When you get that lab value back from your doctor, I guarantee you they told you your total cholesterol, and then they either prescribed a statin or not based on this one singular number. But that total cholesterol number doesn't actually tell you exactly what's going on. What you need to understand is the breakdown of the LDL, the HDL, and your triglycerides. The traditional reference range for your triglycerides is that it should be under 150. And now most of us in the carnivore community like to keep our triglycerides under 100. My current triglycerides are 71. The next measurement we like to look at is our HDL, and really what matters here is your HDL to your triglycerides ratio. What we want to do is we want to take our triglycerides and we want to divide that by our HDL, and we're looking for a number under 2. So really, to understand how's your cholesterol looking, don't worry about that total number as much as understanding your HDL to triglycerides number. So my HDL this round was a 64, my triglycerides are a 71, so we are under 2 by a mile. Next up is your LDL, and I think this is where the big misconception happens, where people get really scared of a higher LDL. It is very normal on a carnivore diet for your LDL to go up. I think in the past, my personal total cholesterol has been as high as like 230. It was around 200 for a few years. And actually the last couple of years, it's been dropping even lower. And it's been around 170 for my total. And even this time, it's like 161. And I had a conversation with my naturopath today that like, I'm trying to boost that cholesterol up because my current LDL is an 83. And even though that's like standard diet, standard reference ranges think that that's optimal, to me, it indicates that like I probably need to boost up my fat intake because proper hormone functions as we age are, everything works better, especially for women. Studies show that women with a higher LDL actually live longer. So to have a smooth transition through menopause and proper hormone health, it's actually good to have a little bit higher LDL. So that's going to be my personal focus and maybe a tweak that I'm going to be making over the next few months. So more than just understanding your total cholesterol and trying to make any decisions or indications about your health, really dig into those LDL, HDL, and your triglycerides to understand really what's going on. Are these all labs that you check? Is there anything else you check on a regular basis? Let us know in the comments down below, and I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.